A lot has happened since I planted my first peach tree in my new orchard. It's almost fully planted. I've just got 3 more trees to go in, and that'll bring my total to 24 trees. I've also planted hundreds of local native plants, which will act to attract beneficial insects and also protect the soil. There's so many different types of deciduous fruit trees to choose from, so I've gone for some of my favourite varieties. I've got 8 different types, including plums, prunes and figs. There's also peaches, nectarines, apples, pears, and I'm waiting on a mulberry tree. Because the space is limited, I've planted others like feijoa and pomegranates elsewhere on the property. All of my fruit trees have been chosen on full-size rootstocks as opposed to dwarf rootstocks because full-size rootstocks are more robust to cope with the challenges here, such as the wind and the heat. Later down the track, I plan on planting citrus trees beside the walled veggie garden once the stone wall is repaired and the soil is prepped. As we saw previously, a grid of holes were dug before planting the orchard. I made 4 rows that are 4 metres apart and 3 metres between each tree. This is to ensure they have plenty of space to grow. I just stepped out the distance. I plan on putting up a temporary wire and dropper fence around the entire orchard, which will be replaced by a more permanent structure down the track, and that'll keep out curious creatures like roos, bunnies and hares. Eventually, I'll cage the entire orchard to protect the produce from birds. Ideally, I'd like a metal frame covered in wire, but a cheaper option is to use polypipe over some star pickets. There are a few options. When the trees get too big, I'll manage their size with a combination of winter and summer pruning. Many orchards are often quite bare around the trees. That's to allow easy access to pick the fruit and also theoretically to reduce root competition. Because it's so hot and dry here, even the annual weeds die off in summer and the soil can become a dust bowl. Mulch will certainly help, but the right combination of supporting plants will ideally stabilise the soil and act as living mulch, protecting it from drying out and becoming habitat for beneficial insects. These perennial plants will create a fungal-dominated soil flora, which will further support the health of my fruit trees. I've planted over 500 tube stock of locally native plants to form a carpet under these fruit trees. In summer, eventually there'll be shade from the canopy of the trees, so I've planted some shade-tolerant plants closer to them, such as Inardia nutans and this geranium. In between the trees where there's more sun, there's also ground covers like Myoporum parvifolium, native pigface and running postman, and these will thrive and spread along the ground, producing an abundance of pretty flowers during the warmer months, but also creating perfect shelter and food for beneficial bugs. I've also planted lots of perennial native grasses. With all this planting, it might make it a little bit harder to walk around the orchard, but eventually some paths will form and it's not a high traffic area. Next thing on the list is to set up permanent drip irrigation on the fruit trees. In a couple of years, these fruit trees will have grown and will start producing, and the ground covers will have filled in, and all this hard work will be worth it.